Startup City Boy speaking, and I'm making Korean dish. They use carrots or cabbage, and they call it chimcha. I got to learn about this while I was in Tashkent. Forgive me for the mess, but I'm not in a factory setting. So when you want to make different kinds of foods that you like at home, if it comes out tasty, you can take it to the manufacturers and let them make a version of what you're doing. That way you become shareholders of a company. See all of these flies, they are so pestering, it's not even funny. That is why in self-contained areas, people are isolated, and there is a need for robotics so that all of these things can work. But by the time you start doing robotics, what happens is that people are afraid to have their jobs annulled, and it takes time to retrain people, which is why you see Korea is a closed country, simply because the people don't want to change their old ways to new ways, and it ends up being a backwards environment where all sorts of crimes are happening and people are in prisons, some are running away. If you want to make tea, for instance, you can make it out of sachets and people will just drink it like that from it. If you're afraid of how much content there is of salts or sugars, you can make different types of variety of salts for people. Blue Band, for instance, is a salty margarine that people like to put on bread here in Nigeria. King's vegetable oil is a great oil as well to use, but usually they use it for roasting chickens, just on the surface, and that way it protects the food that you eat. Now, time has passed. Nobody really knows why certain foods aren't responding with certain foods. So there is a need for a lab in this place, in various places, where they can invent different kinds of foods, taste it, and see what works with what things. Because water content is the primary reason why vegetables aren't growing the way they used to. Tastes are changing, and if you're tasting change in foods, that means equipment have to change. If you put salt before you start cooking, some people may not like the content of salt and cannot buy it, so the foods end up being in waste. What can be done is simply take the foods that have spoiled or rotten, give it to animals, but then the animals start changing. Before you know it, just take the rotten food and spread it all over on the desert. You wouldn't believe what ants and cockroaches and lizards would shit on. Before you know it, the sand has nutrition. You can pick that particular patch away and you make fertilizer out of it. So human beings really don't have a choice but to change over time. And yeah, Startup City Boy speaking. I will show you the final look of the chimcha once my hands are free. Thank you. Thank you means think about yourself.